Hey folks, it is the Nutty Knife Guy. Slight adjustment here. Today a little bit different. Not going out the war post today. I was going through my collection and just looking at it and telling my children how much I loved and appreciated them, and I realized that I had a lot of a certain company in that collection. Now I've got a lot of companies in here. But this one I decided I was just going to go through and tell you about all the knives that I have from this company. Why? Because they just got bought out by, or sold to, depending, and sold to a big, large corporation, I believe, called the GCS Corporation, and you knife people know what I'm talking about, cold steel. And I've been making it a point to buy up as much of the cold steel stuff that I can that's on the market. Quite frankly, before GCS, or I think that's the name of the corporation, but anyway, before this big corporation that has bought Cold Steel has a chance to screw things up, it's Cold Steel. Which usually is what happens when a smaller company is bought by a big conglomerate like that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Cold Steel goes on as usual. But I'm not exactly optimistic. So, what I have here, and I just realized that I missed one of my cold steels. I'll be right back. It's just over here. It is my desk knife, or at least one of the ones on my desk. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. I hope you can hear me rambling on like this, but we'll start out with this one in a second. But first, I got to give you an update. And if you couldn't hear me talking that whole time, I'm not going to leave dead air on here, so you might see kind of a jump where I edit all that dead air space out. But before we talk about all the cold steel stuff, and if I can figure out what I did with the knife I actually, oh there it is, I actually wanted to talk about, I'm going to give you an update on the saga of the broken Boker. Last week I tested the Boker Kalashnikov Automat, or Automat Kalashnikov, out the front knife, and you may notice it has a broken tip because I had it in softwood, and I basically did this with it, and the tip snapped like a toothpick, as one of my viewers described it in the comments on that video. The video, if I remember to do it, will be linked in the description of this video. I'm very upset about this. This was $120. And this wasn't like I was stabbing in and twisting like I was trying to pry off the gates of hell, open the cover to the gates of hell. This was anchor snap. I could probably just taken my thumb and done it. It's not the way it happened, but I probably could have. And it's a shame because it's got a nice snappy action. And I like the way, one of the reasons I got it is I just love the grip. And I'm not even a fan about the fronts. So I looked into the Boker Plus warranty. This is Boker Plus, which is a Boker budget line. It's not their most budgety line. That's the Boker Magnum line. But, and my problem is this. They want me to pay shipping and handling $15 worth to send this knife back to have it replaced or repaired. The thing is this. What if it's a problem with the model of knife itself? What if they're all this crappy? I'm going to pay them another $15 on top of the $120 I already paid them for a knife that's still crappy. But then on the other hand, I want to give the company the benefit of the doubt and be fair, test another one of their knives, and mayhaps it passes, right? And this was just a production anomaly. But on the other hand, I don't want to pay more money for something that might be just as crappy. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do, because I'm going to take about a week and mull this over before I send it back or decide not to. If I decide not to send it back, what I'm going to try to do is file that tip into something like a little tiny Tonto point and see if it holds, or see if the entire blade is that junky. Okay, that's the end of that. Now, back to the cold steels. I'm a cold steel fanboy. I like cold steel. I have a lot of cold steels. I used to have more cold steels. They've been traded away and sold. You know how collecting goes. I think I counted I have 13 cold steel products. I'll get up in a minute and retrieve my cold steel trench hawk. But I've had a lot of cold steel products, and only one has ever disappointed me. And that's the one we're going to start with, because I want to get it out of the way. Okay, I know I can do that. There we go. This is the cold steel Luzon. This is featured in a couple of videos. I got a lot of oil on it right now because I have to store my knives down in the basement. But when I first got this knife, I was really pumped. And I did a comparison video between this and my Spartan here, which we'll talk about at greater length later. And during that testing, I did the spine wrap test on this liner lock that is the Luzon. And I got a little careless, and I had my thumb like this instead of like this, and I actually sliced off with my left thumb a piece of my left thumb because the lock failed. So I administered first aid, got the bleeding stopped. That took a while. And then I came back out and I finished the test, and I did more spine wraps, and the lock failed both with the safety, the extra safety on, and with it off. So I sent it back to Cold Steel and I got another one. And I did another video on it. And the lock failed again. This is the same one. The lock continues to fail. I got too much crap on my tables to show you. But the thing of it is, if I treat this, I still have this knife. I still keep it by my desk, but I treat it as a slip joint without a locking mechanism. The only cold steel knife that really let me down, in a sense. Okay. My next cold steel product would be considered a budget. These things run for about $30, but they are awesome. And this is the Cold Steel GI Tonto. I've had this for probably 10 years, maybe even longer than that. And what I've done, I did sharpen this swedge, and I've got some Talon grips that I had left over from other products on it, because the one drawback to this knife is that it's not the best grip in the world. It's kind of slippery, but the Talon grips solve that. This thing is a beast. It is basically a slab of 1055 steel with handles put on it that you can beat to death. This thing has been used. This thing has been abused. You can see some of the finish coming off. The blade's a little off. The tip's a little rounded, but that's on purpose because I have an edge that goes clear around the tip. If you want a budget blade that is just nearly indestructible, Cold Steel GI Tonto. I'm not doing these in any particular order, by the way, just as they come under hand. This is new. I've only had this for about a week, maybe a little over a week. The Cold Steel Recon Tonto. This is in my EDC rotation. I always carry one fixed blade, at least one fixed blade, and at least one folder. This is in my folding rotation, along with another cold steel knife that I will show you. I'm probably going to do a review on this one eventually. This has been reviewed to death, and I haven't seen a bad review. Everybody seems to like this knife. It's very thick, SV5 steel. It's got a nice grip on it. My one complaint is I would like to see this a little bit longer. But that's a very minor complaint. The grip does feel great. So Cold Steel, this I think cost me a little over $40, which for what you're getting, It's got enough of a bird's beak that you can stick your fingers in like so, or maybe even like so, and still get a pretty decent grip for chopping, even though it doesn't have too much weight. Of course, Kydex sheath. Cold Steel has some of the best Kydex out there, even though I don't think they call it Kydex. And then we have the Cold Steel Marauder. This is the non-serrated version. I don't like serrations on knives. I just don't. It's not a heavy knife, but it's got a lot of weight in the blade, so you can chop with it. The sub-hilt, that's always a plus, even though I wish the sub-hilt was metal, not plastic. I chopped down a sapling with this thing on the reviews. I can't remember how much I paid for this. I think it was about $60. But if you want a bowie that's almost a perfect size for everything, you know, trail knife, camp knife, hunting knife, survival knife, fighting knife, Cold Steel Marauder. And then we have the Urban Pal. I haven't seen these around lately. I'm not even sure they still make these, but this is designed to be a neck knife, last ditch personal protection knife. You can imagine this coming at your face if you're being attacked. If you imagine yourself to be a lizardman zombie ninja attacking an innocent person who has been forced to defend himself. The only reason I don't carry this anymore is that after years and years of wearing this, the sheath started to wear out and the retention became poor. I keep meaning to send to Cold Steel to get another sheath, and I just never get around to it. The Cold Steel Explorer Tonto, again non-serrated. This is in my EDC rotation as well. I'm the nutty knife guy, so I carry sometimes 4, maybe even 5 knives with me wherever I go out, whenever I go out of the house. 2 because I figure I might need them. 3 because I'm the nutty knife guy, because I can and because I want to. But this thing is really cool. I mean, it's huge for a folder. It took me a while to get used to the hand. Again, I would like the handle a bit thicker. So, but I got used to that. Now it feels pretty good. The one thing that it really surprised me about this thing is carrying it. You would think that this thing would be monstrous to carry. I mean, just awful to carry because it's so big. But it's not all that heavy for a knife this size, and it rides in my pocket quite nicely. Okay, next we have the Cold Steel Safekeeper, or Safe Makers. It's the Safekeeper or the Safe Maker? Peacemaker. Don't know the names of my own knives. I only had this for about 2 weeks. Love the knife. Feels great in the hand. Handles well. The problem with this knife is not that the sheath is poor quality. I don't have the sheath on me. I don't have the sheath with me. This isn't my display table, and my sheaths are stored elsewhere. But the sheath that comes with this, there's no way to thumb it out, and it's really only a boot sheath. And the clip, if you put it in boots, I don't wear boots, so I wanted to sheath some other way. I'll probably have one custom made for it eventually. But I tried it in a pair of high top tennis shoes, and every time I tried to draw the knife, the sheath came out the whole 9 yards. Knife people know that about boot knives. Very seldom does the sheath stay in the boot. But the problem with the sheath that came with this one, there was no even any way to get down there and thumb it out of the sheath. So, right. So great knife, but this is one of the few times Cold Steel didn't really put enough thought into the sheath or scabbard. Okay, and then we have the Cold Steel Hideout. Now you can see I carried this a lot. It's been sharpened, it's been resharpened. It's taken some abuse. It has been retired into my collection, and it's got some gunk on it. Excuse me while I degunk it. I did a review on this. I called this the last dish personal protection knife, and that's exactly what it is. You've been fighting zombies all day. You have killed hundreds of zombies. You have even destroyed their lizard man zombie ninja allies. You're out of ammo. All your other knives are broken. Your swords are broken. But there's one lizard man zombie ninja left. You're covered. Then we have the Cold Steel Spartan. This is another one of their huge folders. Again, this has been reviewed to death. Again, huge, but surprisingly easy to carry. This rides in the pocket nicely. The one thing I wish Cold Steel would do with its folders is longer clips. I don't like these short clips. What happens to me is sometimes I'll sit down and the knife gets pushed a little bit up in the pocket. Then the clip clears the lip of the pocket, and then when I stand up, the knife winds up in the bottom of the pocket. Now that's better than a knife falling out of the pocket, I'll grant you, but half an inch more of a clip, half an inch more of a length on the clip would probably prevent that issue. But this thing is cool. It feels great, and also, I mean, you can never count on an intimidation factor in a personal protection situation, but if it's a situation, but sometimes people can be just intimidated into breaking off any potential encounter. You whip this thing out, it looks like a psycho's knife, okay? It might give the, you're carrying something like this, it might give a potential ne'er-do-well pause before screwing with you. No, you can't count on it, but it could happen. Okay, then we have the chain cut up on something else. That's what we have. This is the Cold Steel Spike Tonto. This is another one I carry frequently, particularly in the summer when sometimes I'm not wearing a belt and I always want to have at least one fixed blade with me. So this goes a neck knife. I have the sheath with this one because it's not a display thing, so it's, you know, it's stored on my nightstand with the stuff that I carry every day because I put on knives like when I put on my glasses in the morning. This is, in my mind, to the absolute limit of length when it comes to a neck knife, but it does go pretty well. It does go on the neck pretty well. You can get a very nice saber grip on it, either extended saber grip or get a, I like it, hold it up here. It is almost of a size that it could be a primary knife, a primary fixed blade EDC. And then we have the Cold Steel Mini Tactanto, another neck knife. This is a really incredible knife. This is another one that you could use as a primary EDC knife. If you wanted to use this as a utility knife, it's, in my mind, it's a perfect size and it's got a great blade shape. That straight blade shape, you can do food prep with it, you could skin with it. But it is, let's face it, it is primarily a personal protection knife, or here's that word, tactical. And you can actually call this a sub-hilt, which gives it more points. This is actually my second one of these. I actually wore out the other one. I carried it and carried it and used it and used it and used it to the point where I had sharpened it down to where it was a shadow of itself. And it's lying around here somewhere, and that is lying around here somewhere. This is a relatively new purchase. Okay. Then we have the Cold Steel OSS. Now, I didn't notice, I have reviewed this one and tested it. I didn't notice it on the testing. But when I tested it, I did bend this one a little bit, but it was very easily straightened. But that is not something that really disappoints me because this is double-edged. The geometry makes it look like it's single-edged, and their OSI version of this is single-edged. I really want one of those. One of these days I'm going to get one of those. But this is double-edged, so when a point bends on a double-edged knife, I'm not too surprised. I've done a video on how the very physics of your average, I mean the metallurgy and the physics and the science of your double-edged knife, just the structure of it, makes for weak tips. So, but this is a nice, and also the tip bent, it didn't break. Boker. So This feels great. This is one I enjoy playing with a lot. I really want the OSI though, because as a single edge it would be stronger and therefore better. Okay. Then we have my cold steel Kukri machete. I have used this clearing brush in the yard and a couple of times on hikes and stuff like this. Their line of 1055 stuff is great. I wish I had more of it. I actually had one of their two-handed Barditch-like polearm machetes, which I gave away to somebody to use on their farm because I'm a great guy. But this is another thing that's just a load of fun. It is very, very useful. These things are durable. They come sharp. They are just very, very useful as tools as well as dealing with Lizardmen Zombie Ninja. And then I have the Cold Steel Heavy Duty Sword Cane. As my viewers know, I do have a bad leg. I actually walk with canes. And let's just say if I'm going into areas that might prove hazardous because of Lizardmen Zombie Ninja or their ne'er-do-well allies, I carry this. I do carry this. I have other canes and walking sticks. I don't have it down here, but I actually have just a regular Cold Steel Heavy Duty cane, which is just basically an aluminum cane that Cold Steel makes. That is another one I carry frequently. But this is really nice. If you do really, I don't know, it turned off. If you do really have to use a cane, these things are more than usable that way. Oh, let me get up and get you. I think what I have is my last one I have down here. Well, my last Cold Steel. Well, no, wait a second. Before I get up and do that, the one that is in my EDC knife in my EDC rotation today is the Cold Steel Kubon. I just gave one of these away in a giveaway for my 300th viewer. This is one of the things in my carry rotation. It's like, oh boy, I get to carry the Kobu. This is the perfect size for an EDC fixed blade. Long enough where it is very useful as an anti-Lizardman Zombie Ninja tool. Short enough that it's easily carried. Very, very light, very, very thin profile. If I had to choose between all the ones that I'm carrying now, and I think I have 7 in my rotation for fixed blades right now. If I had to choose between the fixed blade belt knife that I carry, and I could only carry one, this would definitely be in consideration. And it's also beautiful. I just love the look of this knife. Okay, I'm going to stand up here and get my Cold Steel Trench Hawk, and then we'll be done with the Cold Steel stuff that I currently own. And I just want to talk a little bit about Cold Steel as a company. Oh, did you hear my bones crack? That was my bad knee. And of course it's way down here in the back of my rack. Younger guys, you'll be making those noises, those old man noises, when you sit down pretty soon too. Okay, this is the Cold Steel Trench Hawk. They make a lot of these ones in 1095, different ones. They've got the Warhawk and a bunch of others. I want to get some more of their Tomahawks. This thing is just awesome. I've got some tape wrap around it for better grip. It's just black electrical tape, nothing fancy. But the thing about a tomahawk, it's basically, you know, and before they called them tomahawks, they called them battle axes. This is essentially a 3-pound piece of 1095 steel that's sharp on the edge of on the end of a 18-inch lever, right? in the event of an attack by Lizard Man Zombie Ninja, anywhere you hit somebody just about is a fight ender. It's going to crush bone. It's going to cleave through flesh. It's just awesome. Now this one has a spike on it, which makes it not very useful as a tool, because if you're swinging and you're not careful, bango. I've got their trainer, which is another Cold Steel product. You know, I forgot about a bunch of Cold Steel I have because I have a bunch of their polymer stuff around here that I completely forgot I owned until now. But it's cool. But no, I bought the trainer at the same time I bought this, and it was a good thing, because the first thing that happened when I started practicing with the tomahawk, because I got a video on how to fight with tomahawks, I'm a nutty knife guy. One of the first things I did with the trainer is clip myself right here with the spike. If it had not been the trainer, I'd probably still have a scar, and I would have gone to the emergency room and probably had to explain to law enforcement how I managed to get what would look like a knife wound. And I would have to say, well, officer, basically, I'm a dumbass. So, now that that's all taken care of, Cold Steel. I really hope that I'm wrong, and that this new corporation that bought Cold Steel isn't going to screw things up. But historically speaking, they probably will. I give you what Disney did to Lucasfilm. I give you whatever that huge corporation that bought out Remington 15 or 20 years ago did to the Remington brand. So the outlook is not hopeful. So I'm going to try and buy up as much as the older Cold Steel stuff as I possibly can. But the thing about Cold Steel, and I think the thing that sets them apart from anything else, there are two things that set Cold Steel apart from any other knife company. First of all, is they understand that they need products out there for everybody. Other knife companies, they either tend to be really high-end or really low-end. Cold Steel has something for the knife snob that has to pay at least $200 for a knife or it's junk, or the budget guy who's not really a knife guy but wants a decent knife from a reputable company and wants to spend less than 40 bucks or 50 bucks. You can do that with Cold Steel. You'll find something in the Cold Steel catalog if you really want to look. And that's really important. Myself being a knife guy, I will balk if I'm saying $200 for a knife, at least the ones that I didn't design and didn't have custom made. And I try not to throw it on camera, because throwing a fit on camera just would lack class and just would be a waste of time. But when I snapped the tip off that $120 Boker, I was furious. I just tried to channel that that fury into a sense of humor. So if you're always risking a whole bunch of if you risk a lot of money on a knife, and if it might fail, that might fail, and you might want something that if it fails you just buy another one, as opposed to if you fail you're out a couple $100. That's why testing knives is a real risk. And I ask you people that watch the videos of the people who really test knives, not just doing the desktop videos. Most of the time they buy those themselves. They're not sent. So they spend $100, $200 on a knife. They take it out there and test it, and it breaks. They're out that money. So you don't have to be out that money. And then another thing with Cold Steel is that they do better than anybody else is marketing. Cold Steel is really good at hyping their stuff. They make those fantastic videos where those things, where their blades are seen cutting through space-time. And their blades are decent. They're not as good as a lot of the times as Cold Steel makes them out to be, but they're always fairly decent. Even the ones that fit, even that Luzon is fairly decent. Now that I know the lock is useless, I just treat it like it doesn't have a lock. But when you watch the Cold Steel videos, not only is they're trying to prove they're sharp and prove their quality stuff, they make their knives look like fun. It will be fun to own one of these. And that's why I think a lot of other knife companies fall down. they need to tell people why they should, like, well, I'm going to pick on Benchmade because they're expensive. Or even Microtech is even more expensive. Yeah, Microtech is quality. There's no doubt about it. I doubt it. But you have to convince people they need that much quality. And if they're not a special operator whose life may depend on that knife, and they're not just a knife person that wants to have that knife from Microtech for the collection, or they just appreciate knives and even want to carry it, you have to give the average person a reason to spend that much money on a knife. And that reason can be, look how much fun it is to have. And that's where Cold Steel beats everybody. And there's a lot of people out there that aren't knife people that will know about Cold Steel. They don't know about Benchmade. They may have heard of Gerber because Gerber is in a lot of different, big company stores like Walmart and, well, what Kmart used to be, Target and whatnot like that. Or they might go to the gun branded knives because they think that Winchester actually makes Winchester knives. But a lot of people know Cold Steel that won't know any other knife company, and that kind of marketing is why. So I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to, I think Cold Steel is going to change, and unfortunately I think that change is going to be for the worse. Hope I'm wrong. Even though Lynn Thomas, but the owner of Cold Steel, hopefully, he seems like a great guy. He's a knife guy, and it was a knife guy enthusiasm that built Cold Steel. He still is going to be really involved with the company, even though he sold it to this big conglomerate. I hope he can keep Cold Steel's quality and the attitude of Cold Steel intact and not let this corporation muck things up too much. Because that's where I think Cold Steel, I think that's what it was built on. It was built by knife people, for knife people, but it also understood that it needed non-knife people, people who just weren't knife people, but just needed knives, had use for knives. They understood them too. It was just this attitude, a love for their craft and pride in their work. If that is maintained, then the company will go on and remain as beloved as it is now. And I hope that's the case. Unfortunately, I don't think that will. I don't think it will be. So, with that, I ask you to draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe them only with honor. And to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you ever mind to, feed the YouTube algorithm. All hail the algorithm. And with that, I bid you goodbye. Whoop. Did I tell you to draw them only with honor? And I mean, draw them only with just purpose and sheathe them only with honor? If I didn't, I just now did. Remember to do that. It's important. Goodbye.